Hey everybody, this is Peter Palmiotti, and this is Making Comics and Art. I figured I should probably do a focused episode where I'm not rambling. This might be interesting to some of you folks, maybe not, but let's see. Um, one of the things I've gotten asked a bunch of times, and this is not always my method. But sometimes I do an equivalent of this, not this professional, but so you got a drawing, right? And it's a more of a framework of what you got in mind, not a very finished piece of work. So I sort of blocked out some things as far as blacks. Okay, so the name of this episode is Blocking Out Black Areas in an Illustration. This goes for pinups or covers or comic pages. And, specifically, this is more oriented to comic illustrators, but anything, it could work on anything. So what I did is I shrunk it down. Let me move this up just a little bit. I shrunk it down and I did this. I printed it out. And what I got, I wish I had something in between. I'll probably just use the thicker one. This is meant to just go in and be messy. So maybe we should put this off to the side so it's there, but it's not in my way. Okay. So yeah, I blocked out some areas. Let me see. So how I have things blocked out in the illustration that's above me. And excuse me if you hear a lot of noise in the background. Sounds like they're cutting some trees. So okay, so his belt is black, and I did a little. I want to keep like a sort of white halo on certain things. So let's say he's being a little more fussy than I intended. So this is his strap. And this little area here. So what I would do in most cases, like if I was drawing a blank on, I made this drawing, I really like the drawing, but I want to throw down some black areas. I come from the school of thought where, a lot of times, in most cases on a comic page, at least more than 50% should be black in a lot of cases. It depends on the scenes and what's going on and whatnot. But I believe in, sort of the school of thought where a heavy black foundation on the page looks and feels better. Now that you may disagree with that. Yeah, there's plenty of artists that use more black than not. All right, so yeah, I've sort of had just sort of my immediate thought was, yeah, at least that kind of little bit is in black. And I kind of had this. There's a little thing there. And, you know, I can even take it a little bit further. You know, the point is not to make this really neat and clean. It's just to get a general idea of, well, if I throw down blacks in these sort of areas, you know, you have a number of thoughts. Will it make sense? Does it look good? I mean, it should look better than what you've already done. I mean, okay, so this is also black over here. Yeah, and then I'll throw in a lot of fussy lines, feathering and whatnots. You know, of course, it's got comic sort of anatomy, and I'm fine with that. I can even do a little more. You know, it's as if most of the light is coming from here, pointing down to like the bottom right. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super clean. You just want to play with it, get a general idea if it looks better, if it makes sense. You know, like I see plenty of illustrations and, you know, comic book art that doesn't even come close to making sense. And it really, whatever looks good is the point of it all. So I can go a little thicker there. Yeah, keeping in mind that I'll probably throw some heavy feathering in there. So I don't know if it'll work. Let's see. I'm not going to do much. You know, doing a little more into the thought process is really the objective here. You know, and I can even do it with pencil, which I'll try. I'll try a little bit of that in a minute. streaming the other day, I was like, you can't see it well in this, but there's the water behind him. It's got water up here and then water over here. And so all this over here and here is all water. If I was to sort of black that out, we can try that next. So he's got his muscles, where his six pack is. We do a little shadow below the belt, shadow below the muscle. More there. And of course, I'm not too worried about what I'll do on the hook, but it will mimic what's going on in the figure. Could have a bigger shadow on his face. His hairline. Yeah, it sounds like they're trimming some trees. All right, so get away, fly. Go fly. Go fly away, fly. Yeah, and like I could do this just as much with just feathering. And I'll try. Like I said, I wish I had something in between. I don't want to go too heavy on his hair with a lot of big black areas, but maybe I'll throw in sort of like how Cal Fury did his hair, which is throw in a lot of thin lines. And I could do subtle little black areas within it. Or maybe choose to do a lot of lines in certain areas of it. And keep the rest of it open. Maybe I'll throw in some feathering lines like that. And this, of course, will be a lot more lines on his beard. Maybe put a shadow on his nose better. Just little details on his face. Like, hey, I'll open up my webcam program so I can focus on this better. And you get the general idea. So there's a lot more black than I initially drew. But it has more of a solid form. And it might be fun to do it that way. Another thought I had was to go very sort of like light, strong light is hitting him from both sides. So make it where like the center of his mass is more engulfed in shadow. Ooh, it smells like marker. I don't know how people work with markers. I'm sure the colored ones smell just as much. I'm getting high. I'm getting high. All right, so whew, strong. You know, if you look at like Kirby art, you know, which is not realistic at all, although it resembles real people, real buildings, real ships, guns, a lot of times. And it's all sort of shapes. So when you lay down a good heavy foundation of black, that's what you're building up. You're building up the shapes, more distinctive shapes. And that's the strap. That's the other side. And let's see, it should be open. Burp, burp, burp. But yeah, you can tell, like, you know, I see artists who approach it like that. That's a little too cartoony for my likes. You know, I maybe I think a little less shadows and more feathering would work. Keeping his hair thin, but I might do, you know, I'll do it over here. I might take a spot of it and say, okay, so over here, I'm going to throw down where the hair really wraps around, and a big shadow is formed. Okay, do a little area up here. And you could even do it, in his beard. Like parts of it will be really dark. Anything to further show form and curves and turns and I should do this on camera. Let's see. Just a little less. One more? A little less. Okay. Like, I like a lot of that, and I might do it exactly like that. But if I wanted to go a little lighter, what if I just did a little bit less? The point is you do it a bunch of times, and you go with your gut on what looks best. Well, it's less going with your gut. You actually have proof before you. You can judge. And just because you got black areas doesn't mean you have to fill it in solid black. You can just, feathering is one way, but you can do textures and whatnots. So you say, okay. You know what? As I do this, I think I left this on unlisted. Oops. So I'm streaming this live, but I don't think anybody's seeing it. My bad. Yeah, watch this after and comment below the video and let me know what you think. Typically what I do is, I won't scan it, print it out a bunch of times and do this with the marker. But what I'll do is I'll draw the whole image small, but just a rough sketch. And, I won't go in with marker, but I'll just try it with pencil. And let's see. I got a pencil right here. Let's get you out of the way. All right, let's do this guy up here. So, yeah, I was like, okay, I really like this one. I tried a heavier version, and that's kind of cool too, but it looks less like my own work. So, let me go light. And so this is much lighter. and that works out better. And I like more distinction within his hair rather than a million lines. So that's kind of better. You take the little bits of whatever area looks best. Like, maybe below the belt here, this one is spot on rather than that or that. So I'll go with that below the belt. Maybe this forearm I like better than that, but this upper arm I like better here than that one. But his back and mass look better here than here or here. So then, you take the little bits of everywhere and do them in the final piece. But yeah, just so typically I would, like, if I can't visualize it for whatever reason, like it's just not working. Like I visualize a lot of things in my brain, sometimes consciously, a lot more time unconsciously. Like I'll work on art and just go with my gut as I go. It's sort of like every line, when you're inking and even spotting blacks, every line, every mass of black you put down, it's sort of you're making 100 little decisions as you go, every step of the way. So maybe I'll go much lighter on his belts and sort of make those rather than solid black. And, it looks like solid black, but maybe it's just a bunch of lines, from thick to thin. So you can do line, 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 line. And then there's this one up here. Line, 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 line. It's gray in color, as far as fully colored, these straps would be gray, as opposed to like his hook and whatnot, that's gold. And while, I may fill this area in black, which is pretty much set that will probably be the case unless I think of something. But you can even do feathering on metal. You just don't want it to go too crazy, otherwise everything looks like it's feathered. But all these like black masses, you could also just do as feathering, and it's recommended by some artists, where when you're doing feathering, you go with the forms, you sort of bend with the form, but if you do it where the lines are crisscross straight, that really shows form best. But you also have to, and I'll show you here, where you go thick to thin. So if you're doing a lot of close-knit lines and whatnot, and then you making sure where it's darkest, it's thickest, the line. Then here you can start from the darkest area and then go out, and as you go out, the line gets thinner. So you may choose to do that, like when I do it with pencil, I'm just sort of smudging out an idea where I'm totally lost, and you just use the side. And as you just play with it and work it. And I'll give you a clue as to how I draw sometimes. We'll get to that on the next little diagram of Aquaman here. But you're just trying to create form. And, when you're doing feathering, you can also just do tiny little lines that peek out from your line work, where you don't have to do long lines. You could just do. All right, so say in this case, there's a deep dark shadow behind his arm, but you want to keep the rest of it open. You can sort of mimic that here and do little lines there. We could do a deep dark shadow sort of underneath his head, but keep the rest of it open. Maybe have a couple of necklines, like where his veins and stuff will be. So yeah, that's sort of a little different than the other versions. And that's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to create slight variations, so you have multiple choices, and you can figure out what parts of what look best. Okay, so a lot of times when I'm drawing, okay, excuse the noise. A lot of times when I'm drawing, and I'll just grab this paper over here, is like I'll just be drawing like this is a face, whatever, like I'll have no set idea on there's a big guy with a big neck. I'll have no set idea on where I'm throwing down shadows and where the shadows come from is an extension of my style. You draw the basic form, whatever nuances you want to throw in. Usually I like to throw in heavy shadow on one side or the other. I guess because I'm lefty, I tend to do the shadow on the left side. I don't know if that's the case with right-handers doing the shadow on the right side. But I sort of, what I do is I go in deeper and deeper into the illustration as I draw and draw more, and think three-dimensional form. And my shadows are created by how I'm visualizing it and working it. So it's an extension of the drawing, but also like, the light source, like in this case, It's coming from there. But also I'm just dropping in arbitrary shadows sometimes, giving it more a comic book look. But just thinking, where would the shadows be coming from? Where would they hit? And, if you go too far, then all of a sudden you find there's no white areas. So sometimes less is more. Like if you have distinctive ideas on what will accent the character and his look, as well as his sort of expression at the time and all that. But yeah, I can really throw down so much as far as like all this can be a heavy other white light source, right? Or it could be lightly feathered. I'm doing this all in one direction, but you would take more of a portion by portion task to it. And yeah, it definitely comes across as a lighter area, not white, but a lighter than the jet black part, which, this more of this is. But yeah, you're always trying to think three-dimensionally. How will, like, you wouldn't get the shadow under here necessarily if there's more light coming from this side. You wouldn't get that, but you would get hitting the cheek over here on this side of the face. But you could easily do that with just feathering. So, and then he's got crazy hair, and depending on if it's blonde hair or black hair or red hair or gray hair, like affects how dark or not that you will do it. So yeah, like the main point of all this is how I build up shadows sometimes is random, because I get so engrossed in all the fancy line work I'm doing that some of it is just strictly because it looked good. Look good having heavy feathering over here, cross hatching. It looked good not doing anything over here and keeping it bold and white, and so it's all choices you make, like, but you can go very heavy with line work as opposed to doing a lot of solid blacks like over here, like, so you could just make this, well, maybe I just want to make it a lot more fancy line work than black. And you could choose, like, maybe this is going diagonally, like the feathering is going down over here, but maybe I choose more lines going the opposite way, but flowing with, what goes into his thing, using the technical phrase, his hook. maybe I choose to have a front-loaded black area. So let's try it here. So the light is coming from here, and the shadow is hitting the back sides of stuff or the undersides of stuff. But what if the light is coming from slightly down, going up into his face and whatnot? So let's try that. We'll get a lot, the shapes will look different. The hatching will look different if you just minor change where the light is coming from. Maybe you'll have the same shape kind of sort of behind him, but maybe you'll have more of a shadow like that. Maybe his mustache will be darker there. Maybe more of it will be darker there. And you can always throw little shapes. And sort of smooth it out with feathering. Or you can keep the shapes bold and geometric or all right, so maybe what you do maybe his back is a lot darker. Let me try the other marker. Back in the 90s, they did all these lines, and then they got closer, like sort of a secondary light source had all these weird shapes. I don't know exactly how to do that. It's never my specialty. I'll have to study some Rob Liefeld, maybe. Because I do like the effect of it. Maybe you don't want to do it in every illustration, but as a comic artist, you want to keep things entertaining and throw different things, different light sources, different expressions, different poses, different composition, and yeah, different lights, ways things are lighted. But yeah, that's a slight variation. Maybe some of that's better. Maybe you like some of that. Get some of that there. Maybe his arm in this case is heavily backlit. Maybe his hair has more of a distinctive wave of darkness in it. you know. So there's some cool action going on there. We'll do one last one. I didn't think I'd go this long, but this is fun. Yeah, I need the thin one for this. Okay, so, you know, I got what I blocked out here, and let me close up on that. Boop, 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 boop. Maybe one day I'll get a camera in. Okay. So, I'll go really close. So I sort of made that shape and intend to black it out. But maybe I don't want to black it out. Maybe I just want to, if the light's coming up in there, maybe it's lighter, but it's just line work. If you can see that, that's as close as I get. It's line work instead of filled in black like here. So we got one last one. Let's go a little closer. All right, so I'll try another pencil version. So okay, so let me back up a little bit. I got enough variation with these four. This is some subtleties of difference there. Probably not going to come up with anything majorly different here. What I am trying to do is put in some kind of massive shadow, whether it be more subtler or very heavy. I want to get away from the image just being a bunch of lines. Like, you see a lot of art, especially digital art. No disrespect for digital artists. But you see a lot of artwork, and and this has more to do with digital coloring, where they know the colorist is going to go and do wonderful work over their basic illustration. So why put in a lot of extra work? Why not just give them the form? And so everything looks like it's drawn with all the detail, but it's an outline. It's got no real form on the inside of the shapes and all that. And, they leave all that for the colorist. The colorist is the third artist, but my train of thought, especially being a traditional artist, is that I want it to look good in black and white form. So this looks good. This looks good. This looks good, and a colorist can go on top of that and add even more with subtleties and crazy colors and lighting and whatever. Don't give them just the outline. So I'm thinking, yes, I'll do it with a pencil this time. What would be different? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank, I guess. But what if because I'm using a pencil, what if I just sort of create the forms and see what develops? So based off of the lines I drew, if I sort of doing the job of a colorist here, like, what if I sort of made this more three-dimensional looking and see what comes of it. Maybe there's shapes that come together that are more pleasing to my eye and would result in a better finished piece. always keep in mind, like, this, I'm using the side of the pencil, but this could all be done in feathering as well. So if I really took this to the nines, took this all the way, not obviously, like, I'm doing all this because it's not on the final piece, I'm not sort of making a mistake and going directly to the final piece with half a thought. I'm experimenting on a different piece of paper, and whatever is pleasing to my eye here, I can take to the final piece. So I can be thinking, like, what if all this is feathered? What if I throw down a lot more lines? And what if I sort of, like, if I was to keep the things in on his front side solid white, but give him a massive black, and everything on his back, I go in with a lot more feathering. And it's like, that's something I've seen. That's something that works sometimes. I mean, because we're this is a piece. This is a pinup. So I'm not going to do something that's strictly different for different sakes. If this was a panel in a comic, if it wasn't the most important panel on the page, I would be more experimental. I would try different things without fear of, ruining a pretty picture. Because you want to be more experimental on a comic page. Always keep the reader engaged. Always keep the eyes happy. But you could do long feathering. You could do short feathering. You could do diagonal feathering. You could do thick to thin feathering. You could do linear feathering. It's just linear, the same line work. Different people use different terms. I make up my own terms based off of things I've heard throughout the years, but also what I think describes it best. Just much like they use the term embellisher rather than an inker back in the day, because that does describe it best. But I do like the word inker. So it's it's whatever you want to go with. But see, we can shadow the shapes slightly different, but also do a lot more cross hatching. Maybe that gives you better results. Or maybe you have no idea what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, this is actually, let me go close so you can see it better. This is like more heavier, like sort of 80s, 90s style, where the coloring was simpler and you had a lot more feathering, and you could replicate that throughout the body and the hair and everything. Like, just throw in a million lines, Don't be afraid of the lines. Throw them in. It's funny. I was looking at some Terry Austin, John Byrne, Terry Austin work. Not X-Men. Surprisingly, it was Star-Lord. Yeah, I was looking at that recently, and actually a little after that, I looked at some of the Next Men, which was John Byrne without Terry Austin. And John Byrne is a capable artist, and he's done fantastic work on his own. But you can never beat the duo of John Byrne and Terry Austin. Did some phenomenal work together, and they were, together they were both super tight. And yeah, it was just the way Terry Austin tightened up John's work and gave it a whole different feel and expression. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's not what I'll do. That's not what, like, if I had to say which one looks more like what I typically do, it's either this or this. Let me back up so you can see shit I'm pointing at. Okay. Okay. So yeah, typically more either this or this, but with feathering, with some cross hatching, and the face by itself, you can do 100 very different variations. It's easy to show the variations on the body, the bigger forms. But yeah, so blocking out black areas in an illustration goes for any kind of illustration. I wanted to do the water too, and I think this one is a good way to show it. So let me just really quickly. So okay, so it goes something like this. Because it's a little washed out, because it's just in pencils. It goes something like that. Or, well, I'm getting this wrong, but okay. Something like that. Let's say it's like that. Okay. You may choose. Okay, so this little area, that little area is actually the water behind them. So what if you chose to make the water behind him like almost a solid black? Let's say the very tips of the water are like the white spray, but the rest of it is more solid black. And this area is also water behind him. Now, mind you, you could have like some line work, but like negative line work. So where you would have a black line on a white area, maybe you have some white lines on the black area. And you could do that after the fact with, either white paint or a white pen. I have a white pen. It's not 100% great, but you could sort of get it in there and work it. You have to. It's not as easy as throwing down a black line. As throwing down a white line isn't as easy as throwing down a black line, but with a little hard work, you can do it. But yeah, what if I chose to do the water as more of a black mass? And that doesn't mean you have to do the whole thing as a solid black, but just trying to illustrate a point here. So as soon as I fill in black, I'll tell you what my point is. But yeah, I sort of done this before on the channel, but I think anything knowledge-wise that might prove helpful to somebody is definitely worth repeating, but also getting better at describing what you're trying to point out is also helpful. So yeah, like that's a much more dramatic piece because it's mostly filled in black. And what I would attempt to do, having done it, having filled it in black, it is bolder. What I would do is maybe try to figure out some shapes like ahead of time that would be, and I can go a little closer so you can see the details. Like the white lines, figure them out ahead of time. So this is something like that. Where you can then fill in the black shapes. Maybe you'll have random right line there. And you can do like multiple lines. I mean, you could do a whole array. And that would look like, feathering in the water, like where you have lines describing more of the water motion. And you can also choose, like here, I did the water black right up against the character. A lot of times when I'm inking other people, I do what I call a halo, which is just a white line around the figure. So maybe I would do that in this case. And the main reason to do a halo around a figure is that it pops better. I don't have to do it perfectly here, but just so you get that idea of what it would look like a little bit. Maybe I choose to do a little halo, and you can see how that's different, like from that to that. Well, definitely, because once you go from white to black, you sort of lose a little bit. It becomes more two-dimensional as a way, like, I think this looks more three-dimensional, having a white line around the figure. The problem is always, how do you freaking color that? Because you want it to separate, and you won't, logically it's what's behind the figure, but sometimes that doesn't work out. It becomes really complicated. Yeah, I'm not sure there's a definitive solution to coloring a halo around a figure that doesn't look wonky. I got pencil all over my hand. There's all pencil up here now. Okay, anyway. But let me pull back once again so you can see. So yeah, oh boy, I've got over an hour. So yeah, this is various attempts. And let me turn off. Is it this? Yeah. Okay. Hey, you don't have to see my name. Yeah, various different attempts to give more life and depth and lighting and just overall better look to what was initially the basic initial drawing, which was kind of an outline to give it more form. So what's your favorite variation? And does it are you looking at a couple of them and putting them into one master piece? It's funny as I look at this, I can definitely see where, if I was to just do the interior of the hook, in black, that would kind of look cool too. But I may not want, something that's supposed to be gold or goldish to be too dark. But I may like the look. It's all, it's all interpretation and artist choice. It's like why I love comic art that is realistic to a certain degree, where the anatomy is correct and whatnot. But I do come from more of a school of artists like Todd McFarlane is a good example, or where it's more about the art and what looks best. I ink that way, therefore I'm going to be drawing that way. Because this drawing is not 100% accurate, but it looks cool, at least in my opinion, in my humble opinion. But yeah, so I hope you got something out of today. Hope you learned something. If there's any way I can explain this better, hey, take a shot at it and give me a comment. If you haven't already, please like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please give my channel a subscription. Also, if you want to support me above and beyond that, share out the video on your socials, and also become a patron. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support me and my cats. They'll love you for it. I'll love you for it. So till next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Have a great, great night. and keep making comics.